Hey everybody, FireWizard23 here. I've decided to do a couple of interesting videos here. After watching the Nostalgia Critic's top 10 movies that he hates but everybody else seems to love, I've decided to do a very similar list here on my channel of the top 10 video games that I hate but everybody else seems to love. And that's going to be this video. And in a little while, once I get the video all put together and spliced, I'll be doing the top 10 games that I love, but everybody else seems to hate. Now, with this list, my hate list, I do want to put a couple of quick pro quos out there. I have actually played these games. I don't think it's fair for me to be passing judgment on games that I have not played. So I want to make it perfectly clear. I have actually sat down and have logged hours into actually playing these games. So I feel I'm legitimate to give them criticism if I actually just really don't like them. Number two, the word that everybody else loves these games. I kind of put a little bit of a proviso on that I feel that they are or were commercially successful games or are generally well liked. And the only exception I'm going to make there is that the very first three games on this list, numbers 10, 9, and 8, I basically could not fill up this list successfully with 10 games that I hated but everybody else seemed to love, given those two things. So the very first three games on this list are games that basically I just don't like. And I don't think anybody actually likes anyway. They could have their fans, but I generally don't think most people really like these games or that they're even commercially successful at all. But beyond that, 7 through 1 are definitely games that I feel are commercially successful or people generally do like them. I will be crediting what I feel is good about each game. I want to give the games fair credit. I do acknowledge what is good about them. And I think Doug Walker probably said it the best. It's not about... What really matters is how well you can explain it. So, without further ado, let's get started. Number 10. The Mutant Virus for the NES. This game, again, being the very lowest game on the list, and like I said when I started the video, this is one game where I just could not find enough games to fill a top 10 list where they were all games that everybody else loved and I hated. So basically, this is a game I just really don't like. The concept of the game is actually pretty interesting. The idea is that the world is in a technologically advanced future, and some kind of virus that has a habit of mutating its form has taken over the five main computer systems that make up pretty much the entire electronic web. You as the main character are miniaturized to be injected inside the computer itself to fight the virus using kind of like a virus gun that they've given you. And that's a pretty unique concept. I got to give them credit. I'd never heard of a game like that before, and I got this game was very close to the end of the NES life cycle. And it's pretty interesting. You zoom around, you shoot the virus as it kind of replicates itself in every area. And the visuals of the game are actually pretty interesting. For what the NES could do, it was a pretty visually interesting idea, except for one fatal flaw, and that is the difficulty level. The difficulty level of the first area, which I'm pretty sure is communication, it's easy. It's easy, and that makes sense. It should be a relatively easy area just to get you started, and I think pretty much anybody can beat this. I think you're like 2 shots and you completely kill the virus. After that, it just gets downright murderous. You have to stand there for literally hours, almost depending on luck, to fight this virus back and successfully to get all of the virus purified so the area kind of resets itself and you win. And it's just maddening. I think there's only a couple times I've ever gotten to the third area of this game, and only once I've ever seen the fourth area, and it's hard. This is hard. You ever float over the virus and you start taking damage? It's ridiculous how difficult this game was made. And I think it just needed a little bit of retooling to, help curve the difficulty level and stuff. But that's Mutant Virus, and that's why I hate it. Number 9. Infiltrator for the NES. This, again, just like Mutant Virus, I just could not figure out enough games to fill up this list of all 10. This was just a terrible game. I have no idea how I even acquired this game for my NES. From what I can even vaguely remember, you're some kind of special ops agent, and you're trying to fly into this base to steal some secret documents. I generally remember just playing this game and not really even understanding what I was supposed to do. I feel like when you play, say, Mario Brothers, you understand you're supposed to run through the game, squish and defeat enemies, and get to the final goal at the end of the level, or beat Bowser at the end of the level. When you play Metroid, you're supposed to go around and shoot things and find power-ups and beat the bosses and beat Mother Brain and stop the Metroids. You get it. I have no idea what even the point of the Infiltrator is when I play it. And, it's been so long, I haven't seen the manual in years. But, and I understand very early games, like, say, like in the Atari days, for example, it was very difficult to include any kind of narration in the actual game. But I think once you reach NES level, you should be able to include at least some little blurb about what exactly is happening. Even the early RPGs could at least mildly guide you with what you're supposed to be doing. But Infiltrator was just a very poorly designed game. That's all there is to that. Number 8. Charlie's Blast Territory for the N64. Okay, this is the last of the games where I just couldn't fill the list, so bear with me. Alright, the idea of Charlie's Blast Territory it's a pretty simple stock idea. Your girlfriend has been taken by the evil captain of industry, and you have to go through these various puzzle islands using bombs to go and save her. And the game is actually pretty interesting. You get to these island territories that are full of bombs, and the idea is, setting up one chain reaction, you are to completely destroy every single bomb in the region. And they have different exploding patterns and stuff, and you have to make sure that Charlie is always sitting in a very safe region of the island when they all blow up, so he's safe. And I like puzzle games. Everyone sees me play, The Adventures of Lolo, so they all know that I like puzzle games. But I think what bothers me is just, why bother making this 3D? You could easily do this kind of thing as a two-dimensional game. I hate it when video games say, okay, here's this concept, but let's make it 3D so everybody really, really likes it. Why? If the game works as a two-dimensional concept, there's no need to make it 3D just to take advantage of the technology. You could easily made a good puzzle game that utilized the fact that it had the graphical power, but not necessarily make it in a 3D world. Because I always found it just really kind of off-putting to look at, and I felt the gameplay was incredibly slow. I felt Charlie moves at a snail's pace in the game. It's ridiculous, and I didn't find the game very much fun, despite the fact that I do like puzzle games. So That's how I feel about Charlie's Blast Territory. Oh, and another really interesting, weird story about that game. I always associate it with Doritos. I know that's a really weird thing to say, but the only reason I say that is because when I first played this game, I was eating Doritos. So whenever I would look at Doritos or, and vice versa, play the game, I would always think of the other thing. Doritos, I think of Charlie's Blast Territory. Charlie's Blast Territory, I think of Doritos. I do want to give the props. I'm kind of being weak here, and I didn't mention it with Mutant Virus, but I do actually frequently play Mutant Virus still. It's kind of one of those things that, I love to play the first world, and then I hate it. Charlie's Blast Story, I'd pick it up again. I wouldn't stand here and say I wouldn't pick it up again, and I want to say that. It's not like I don't play these games anymore, or I haven't even tried, but at least for the remainder of the list, they're games that I really just generally don't like. But as for, say, Mutant Virus and Charlie's Blast Territory, I do actually... I would play these games, but just I have really serious complaints about them. Number 7. Mega Man 7. Okay, I know it might seem kind of cliche that Mega Man 7 is in the number 7 spot, but this really kind of is where it ended up in this list. Okay, what can I say? I like Mega Man. I like Mega Man, the original NES Mega Mans 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I love them. Everyone knows I did LPs of them on my channel, and I really like them. Mega Man 7 I find very off-putting, and I think it goes back to what I was saying with Charlie's Blast Territory. I think they used the technology and they didn't use it correctly. Mega Man 7 is pretty much made using the Mega Man X game engine. This is apparent by most apparently by the sub-menus. And I don't think it should have used that engine. I think they almost should have remade the original Mega Man engine and just given it kind of a couple graphical touches. I don't think there really should have been any major change with what the game looked like. Another big problem I have with it is the sound. The sound quality of the game is very strange compared to the other Mega Mans. In the original Mega Man game, his shot sounded, you remember, we know how his shot, what is it called? His plasma power shot. How that sounds in the original game. Beep, beep, beep. In Mega Man 7, it just sounds wimpy. I mean, it sounds like he's shooting like puffballs or something. It's such a weird sound. I don't mind much the stage design, the stage themes. I think those are okay. I don't have a problem with those really. The boss themes, the boss theme is weird. I don't really understand, but it just seems a little bit too happy and cheery to be a Mega Man boss theme. And I thought it would grow on me over time, but no, it's just off-putting. I feel there's a lot of... It's when Mega Man started really having a lot of hidden stuff in the stages, and I think it was just really... It was offset, like you could call Rush down and he would dig into the ground to find objects for you, really kind of randomly. And I just felt like it was trying to add really too much to the formula that worked. And from specials I've seen, Capcom is really famous for not messing with the formula. And I think here they kind of did go a little bit too far. I think they tried to be... They changed it a little bit too much. I also don't like that in Mega Man 7, at least the American version, you only have 4 Robot Masters to choose from, where in all the other ones, you've always had all the Robot Masters to choose from. You could always start wherever you wanted. And Mega Man 7 kind of restricted you story-wise, and I don't like that aspect of it. 8, I think, nailed it much better. I think the PlayStation version of Mega Man 8, and, I think the compilation version on the GameCube, 8 hit it a little bit better. It kind of went back to the model of what Mega Man should be. Despite the fact, and this is another thing about Mega Man 7 I don't like, Mega Man's sprite in 7 is very balloony, and that's something I've always really had an issue with the NES games. They really made all their characters very big in games for something I really never understood about it. It's like, yeah, we have this greater pixel count, so let's give our characters better physical definition and make them even bigger, so that way the stages are effectively smaller. And it's like, I don't really understand why they did that. Wouldn't it make more sense to keep the sprites basically the same, just give them a couple graphical touches, and make larger stages? I never really got that. And while Mega Man 8 does kind of the same thing with Mega Man, I think how it utilizes the space in the levels makes a little bit more physical sense. Whereas in 7, it just felt like Mega Man really didn't have any space to move. That's about all I can say about Mega Man 7, so let's move on. Number 6, Earthbound for the SNES. Okay, this one's kind of a strange one to put on this list. This one is more on this list because I feel like in the gaming community it has a very strong cult following. I don't think it was really commercially successful. I think it's more popular now than it was back then. Back in the day. I can't believe I'm old enough to say that now. I'm nearly 30. But I've played it, and I think what bothers me is just how spotty its translation is. Because I know that this game definitely has translation issues. And that's really kind of my biggest complaint about it. And the story is weird. If I remember, we have the main character Nez, where a meteor has crash landed into his hometown of Onyet, and if I can remember the story correctly, this meteor gives him psychic powers or something, and he uses those to help battle this evil force, which includes a silver spaceman or something. And I did actually play this game, but I didn't get far into it. But I kind of get the idea of what the game is. It's just bizarre, and I think there's some games where the bizarre gets a little too far. For example, one game I really... Actually, I actually don't want to mention that game because it might actually be on my like list. And so I don't want to mention that game, but let me see if I can come up with another one. Let's see, I'm trying to think of a game that, it's got a weird storyline, but kind of its gameplay kind of carries it. Well, I guess you could argue Mario. Mario does really kind of have a very strange storyline. If you really just read the storyline, it's like, really? This guy got sucked down to a drain, and now he's fighting all these creatures by jumping on them? It's kind of a weird idea, but the game works. The platforming of the game works. I think with Earthbound, at least for me, the general storyline is just so strange, I can't really get myself to accept it. And the battle is just weird. Does it sometimes say, the dog is taking a nap or something, and, he doesn't attack? And it's like, this is just strange, even by RPG standards. I won't give Earthbound a lot of crap. I I do understand it has such a strong cult following, but just not for me. Number 5. The 2D Sonic the Hedgehog games. I'm going to specifically talk about the Genesis ones, 1, 2, and 3. I've played the games. They've got great merits, but I have a couple major complaints about them. Let's be fair about a couple things. Sonic frequently gets compared to Mario for one of the very first ever console wars of Genesis versus Nintendo. Genesis had the motto, Sega did, what Sega can, Nintendo don't. And Sonic is basically was the mascot of the Genesis and Sega. And Sonic, he's fast, he can do this, he's hip, and it makes Mario look kind of like a baby type character, which he does in comparison. Let's look at Sonic the Hedgehog by himself. Okay, let's really kind of analyze him. He's about speed. He can travel really, really fast, right? Okay, he goes over these terrains so fast, you can't enjoy them. Okay, that's one thing I don't really like about the game, is that you can somehow, and take off, and you go through these huge terrains covering a lot of distance, and you can't enjoy it. I mean, it almost seems like the art style is almost an afterthought to this game. Because there's a lot of repeated items in the games, a lot of repeated backgrounds, and you really can't enjoy these games. Also, how many people have ever done that huge, Sonic spin thing, gone really, really fast, and then crash into an enemy, and lose all your rings in one hit? That's another thing I hate about Sonic the Hedgehog that makes no sense. Why does he lose every single ring upon one hit? It's stupid. It's, why? That mechanism never made any sense to me. And yes, one could argue that Mario technically has the same kind of system, but that got augmented in Mario 3, when just being hit once would revert him to the previous form, not just normal Mario. The special stages. I don't like how the special stages are just ungodly difficult. The first one is this weird spinning thing where you have to jump through this rotating world to find the one trapped Chaos Emerald. In the second game, it's this half-pipe thing where you gotta grab enough rings to keep advancing through various checkpoints. And the third one is this thing with red and blue balls where you gotta find every single blue ball, change it to a red ball to successfully find the Chaos Emerald. Which, I have to give props, is probably the best of the 3 bonus levels. They're ungodly hard. I mean, they're all ungodly hard and require precise timing and movement. And it's just, why is this like this? Going back to Sonic's movement for a second, that's another thing that I really don't get. Sonic can travel, is supposedly, the fastest thing alive. Why does he only travel in 2 directions? That's something that never makes sense to me. Sonic generally travels on land, and he only travels really in 2 directions. That never really makes much sense to me. It almost makes him incredibly constrictive as a character, which is something I'll get into in my like list with a game set that I'm going to put on that list. I wonder if Sonic the Hedgehog in his original creation was kind of stuck in this 2D world. He couldn't really go 3D yet because the technology wasn't ready for him, and we wouldn't see a 3D Sonic game for a few years. But I think in the 2-dimensional format, while it has its fans, it's a great game. It stands as a really kind of as a monument of the gaming industry becoming competitive. That's really kind of what Sonic represents. I don't think his games really are that good. Number 4. Prince of Persia and the Sands of Time. Okay, now I know I'm getting into really sacred gaming territory here, because Prince of Persia has been around for a long time, and Sands of Time is the GameCube release, and I believe it was simultaneously released on the PlayStation as well as Xbox. I have to give this game credit for how it looks. This game is absolutely fucking gorgeous. This had like movie-style directors doing the art style of this and the camera angles and everything. It is beautiful. I cannot give this game anything but a 10 out of 10 for the art style. That being said, let's talk about the game. Okay, the general idea of this game, I think it's fairly standard stock. The Prince of Persia comes back for like this war or something, and they get this giant hourglass, and he's ordered to basically put this dagger in the hourglass, which causes it to erupt, and the sand turns all these creatures into monsters, with the exception of him, this weird princess girl. I've never actually finished the game, and this vizier and his staff, because his staff, the vizier's staff, her necklace, and his dagger are keeping them alive. And you were forced to fight through the game, fighting all these zombie-type monsters, and you can turn back time using the dagger, which is a really interesting mechanism. I'll give them props for that. I think the thing that just gets me about this game is the gameplay. Anyone who's ever played Mortal Kombat, there's the set of commands you have to know for every kind of character. How, for example, with Raiden, how to do his Force Lightning, how to do his teleport, how to do his... how to do that thing where he dashes forward and slams into his enemies. Prince of Persia wants you to know that kind of combat strategy just for fighting, just for very basic fighting of common enemies. And the manual, I remember this, makes such a big deal of telling you this. The prince is not very strong. You're going to have to use his agility to get around combat. And it's a pain in the ass. I mean, it's such a ridiculously hard fight system. Like, you have to actively block. You have to actively be dodging. And I get that there's gamers who like games where it's not just hack and slash, tap the A button a million times and you'll win every single battle. I get that. But I guess maybe I'm just not the kind of gamer who wants that. I don't mind how you have to get around environments. I don't mind the trap systems. Except I feel like you really don't have a lot of life. I feel like the game is almost brutally hard in that aspect. As well, that you just really don't have a lot of health, and you're forced to use the time travel aspect of it to really save your ass most of the time. But yeah, it's just the gameplay. It's so friggin' hard. And I don't know why the difficulty curve of it is just so hard. Maybe other people didn't find it as difficult as I did, but I did. What can I say? Actually, I just thought of another thing, another little piece I wanted to mention, because this will kind of go into the next game on this list. With Prince of Persia, I've actually played the 2D Prince of Persia games. I like those. I actually kind of like those games a little better. You got the clock, you're supposed to get out by all these traps, and it works for some reason. That concept works a lot better than what they did with the 3D game. And to be fair, they totally changed what the concept is in the 3D game, but it works, the concept worked a little better in the 2D game. I liked its concept a little bit better. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there, that I think in video games, I think there are certain formats that an idea works in better, and that's going to become important in number 4. Number 3, Myst. I'm specifically targeting the first Myst game here because it's the only one I've actually played. This is a tough game to have on this list because Myst really did define a new generation of 3D gaming. For those who are unfamiliar with the game, I'll give you kind of a synopsis. You're a character known as the Traveler or the Journeyer, I can't remember what the exact word is, and you get sucked onto Myst Isle, and what the game is a completely open-ended experience. There is a main story that carries throughout all the Myst games, and in the first game, you're essentially being tasked with finding the red and blue pages of two brothers, Cirrus and Akanar, who have been trapped inside respective red and blue books. Ultimately, throughout the game, you're supposed to uncover the fact that the two of them really aren't that trustful at all, and you end up going to free their father, Atreus, from his prison on another book world known as Dunny? A world of Myst known as Dunny. Dunny? I think I have that right, I can't remember. I apologize to any fanboys who know what the actual answer is. The game involves you going to different realms of Myst, finding different teleporter books on the channeler books? Teleporter books? I can't remember what the terminology is, that take you to those respective worlds. This, in theory, is a really interesting idea. I think the game is too abstract, at least for me. I find this game really too abstract, because the game really doesn't tell you how you're supposed to accomplish things, other than mild suggestions and finding clues. And there's nothing wrong with that, except it becomes really frustrating to players who might not be used to that. And I wonder how many games before Myst had systems that worked like that, where you really weren't told what you were supposed to do, or at least the mechanism of the game wasn't that apparent. And I found it frustrating. I think it was years before I ever even found one of the books on Mist Island. I'm totally serious. It was the one inside the tree, which led to the Channelwood Age. I think it took me literally years before I actually thought to step in the elevator and let it take me one floor down. For those who are unaware, the elevator on the island... Imagine seeing a tree with an elevator in it and just watching that elevator go up and down. And at one point it actually occurred to me that the elevator door actually went below the ground. And it didn't occur to me for a long time why not just ride the elevator until it actually goes into the ground. It just never even occurred to me to try to do that. I know that might seem really, really stupid, but the game does require that level of open-ended thinking. You really have to think far beyond outside the book and be willing to modify things. And these kind of puzzles only got more maddening as the Myst games went on. I recently watched Myst 3 Exile, and I would be tearing my hair out how to solve some of those puzzles. I mean, just how completely abstract it is. It bugs me. I mean, to be fair, the game just bugs me. I think it's just a little bit too abstract for me. I want to give credit to the guys who made the game. I can't even remember their names, though, but it really was, again, another pinnacle of gaming, and I don't want to just completely say it's a terrible thing. But, it's a game I don't like. I know a lot of other people like it, but I can't stand it. Number 2, Farmville. Okay, let's get this over with. This game is pointless. It is utterly, completely pointless. For those who have never played Farmville or don't participate in games on Facebook, I will explain what the point of Farmville is. When you start up a game of Farmville, you are given a farm, quite literally, of a square set of tiles. The point of Farmville is using your Farmville coins, you are to purchase plants to plant in the ground to harvest crops that give you more coins. You can buy more plants, you can plant more to harvest more, to buy more plants to do that. You can build structures on the farm, such as barns, fences, buy animals like cows that you can milk or sheep that you can get eggs from. You can travel to other farms on other continents. You can build these structures, you can build seasonal structures. You can do this, you can do that in this whole sandbox little toy house. And it is stupid and annoying and boring. It has no point. Farmville has no point. And I understand that video games in general don't have a point. But at least when I'm playing most games, I can understand that there's kind of a structure to it. A problem is presented, you're given tools and weapons or skills and abilities to defeat that problem. At the end of the game, at the end of the day, the evil or the problem is resolved and everyone goes home happy. Farmville never has that. It just goes on and on forever. And yes, I've actually played this game and played it for several months. And at some point, after harvesting 50 crops a day, or even every few hours, because not every crop grows in a day, you just are like, what is the point of this? What a waste of time. I cannot tell you the number of hours I've probably wasted on this game. But oh no, I don't get away from it like that. My sister, who I love and cherish so much, not to mention every other person who has Farmville and has friended me on Facebook, says, hey, can you harvest these crops? Hey, can you send me this? Hey, can you send me that? I am so tired of it. It's a pointless little game to waste time, and again, I understand that is the point of video games, but God... And with all that said, let's go to number 1. And without further ado, drum roll please, the number 1 game that I can't stand but everyone else seems to love, and I'm gonna take so much fucking shit for is... Thank you. Sarai. Minecraft. I hate this game. Albeit in theory, this is just freaking awesome, but I really despise Minecraft as a game. Alright, let me give the general rundown of the game. When you boot up the game, a randomly generated terrain is created that includes mountains, rivers, and trees. The idea of the game is there really is no direct point or anything you're doing. You can basically use your main character that you move around jumping and digging out earth and trees and stuff to build up materials to make other things. Like you can put wood together and metal together to make like weapons, like and tools, like hammers and pickaxes and stuff that make digging easier. You can build other structures and stuff. And I want to give something credit because I passed it. I do actually like walking through the terrain of Minecraft. I want to give credit to that. I do think that's a really interesting idea. I've never seen a 3D game that moves so smoothly, that has this kind of terrain. I do like that. And it's a very simplistic graphical style. And I will not diss the game for its graphical style, because I think that's what the creator was working with, and I think he used it to its best effect. I find this game utterly pointless. For most of the things where I've ever watched any kind of walkthrough, like trying to explain like how you would make like this pickaxe or this workbench or this and that, how are you ever supposed to know to do that? I mean, yeah, you could just pull up the manual or the guide and it would tell you how to do that. What kind of gamer pulls those out to play a game? I mean, seriously, how many people out there, and you're out there, don't even deny it, bought a video game fresh from the video game store, opened it up, popped it in your game system, and went. You didn't even look at the manual once. Don't even sit there and tell me you didn't do that. Because everybody did that. And this game, I'm actively supposed to pull up these manuals to know what to make? Really? I mean, it's frustrating. And I don't know if maybe it was just the version I was playing, but I had no idea what I was making. I didn't know what I had. I'm digging out the earth and stuff, and this is coal. How in the hell am I supposed to know that's coal? Did different editions simply tell you that it was coal? I never knew that. Am I supposed to tell by the coloring? And another thing I hate, you have a life bar. This game actually has a day-night system where at night, evil creatures like skeletons and zombies will come out and try to kill you. There's also like spiders and sheep and pigs and stuff. Why? I mean, I know there's probably some mods that get rid of those monsters completely, but why in the world would you even have them to begin with? I mean, if you're trying to create this world where people can just build and do anything they want, then why bother building hazards that could potentially kill the player? And I have seen so many videos of people who, look at this, I made the castle from this game. Look at this, I made this giant billboard that looks like this. What a waste of time! And I understand that video games generally are a waste of time and they don't really accomplish much of anything, but this just pushes it to a new extreme. At least, I guess with Farmville, and the reason that Minecraft is higher than Farmville on this list is at least Farmville, okay, it's crops, it's farming. People can relate to what that is, and it does some kind of have an inherent thing where you share it with other people and da-da-da-da-da. Minecraft is just utterly pointless to me. There is nothing to do in this game that to me is even engaging or even holds my attention for even more than 5 minutes. Ugh! Ugh. Alright, that about does it. That's my top 10 video games that I hate and everybody else seems to love. Give me hate down below for it. And when I get it put together, you're soon going to see the top 10 games that I like but everybody else seems to hate. I'll see you then. Take care and bye-bye for now.